Hey, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Golf Business Live. I'm your host, Michael Williams, bringing you the best of the best in all things golf, powered, of course, by the National Golf Course Owners Association. I just want to give a first shout out to this course here at the Grizzly. I met these folks, and they are a new member, so shout out to the Grizzly Golf and Entertainment Club in Ohio, Mason, Ohio. I met them at GBC on the floor, actually, at the PGA show. They were not members then, but they are members now, and they have a very cool logo. Go out and check out their website, and you'll probably want to buy some gear from them. But they sent me this great shirt along with a couple of other things. So I just wanted to represent and say a hearty well done and welcome to the folks out at the Grizzly. Thank you so much, and good to have you with us. So we're going to start off this show with the Inside Golf Business segment, and let's see, we have no shortage of things to talk about in our golf world, thanks to Mr. T. And not that Mr. T, not pity the fool, Mr. T, Mr. Technology. We have, because of technology, there's so many things to talk about and how it interfaces with the business that we do. And one of those things that's very interesting is the idea of property rights, which is something that was addressed in other industries quite some time ago, very frequently and very thoroughly. But it seems as though it's just coming up in a meaningful way in the halls of Congress when it comes to the golf industry. And of course, talking about something you may know about already, which is the BIRDIE Act. Joining us to talk about that is a man who knows about it. Of course he does, because he knows about basically everything under the sun. He is a renowned golf course architect, historian, and he is the best putter I know. Please welcome the one and only Robert Trent Jones Jr. Bobby, how are you, my friend?
I'm great, Michael. And when you get to my age, all you have left is a putting stroke. So you have to practice.
You do, in fact, have my favorite line. When we played at Hogshead in Ireland, you hit a drive, it was right down the middle, but maybe not as far as you wanted to be. And you looked over at me and said, "My distance has left me for a younger man." And yeah. One of the best lines I have ever heard. Thank you again so much. You know how much you have going on and all kinds of pots that are stirring for you. So thank you so much for joining. And I just wanted to jump right into this issue of the BIRDIE Act, which is a piece of legislation that is currently floating through the halls of Congress, as many pieces are. But this is obviously of particular interest to our industry when it comes to intellectual property that is involved with golf course design. So if you can give us, because I know you can explain it better than I can, but a brief description of what this bill is and what it addresses.
Yeah, well, thank you, Michael. This has been a topic of some discussion among the golf course architects. The American Society of Golf Course Architects has sponsored the bill, and it's been introduced into Congress in a bipartisan way by Congressman Mineta from Monterey. You've heard of that zip code where they have a few wonderful golf courses, and he represents that district. And Congressman Fitzpatrick of mainline Philadelphia, where Marion exists, among other great Philadelphia schools of architecture. And he is a Republican. So it's bipartisan. Maybe the only thing that is at the moment. I don't know.
Say one of the two.
Maybe it's significant in that it's basically the act seeks to clarify the current rights as they exist. There has been some confusion in the courts. I think of the Tour 18 case in Texas 20 years or more ago, where the judge was not a golfer and didn't know how to apply the current law, which was confusing to both the people who were litigating it. Some of the most famous people in golf, Harbortown and others, were trying to protect their intellectual property of their designs. And there's confusion. So the basic point in this is these rights already exist. They're constitutional rights and patent and copyright for creative people. And golf course architects are creative people. And the ownership of those rights belongs to both the designer and the owners of the properties themselves, the actual golf courses.
Right. And the issue is that these designs, if you will, this intellectual property has been used for profit by other outside agents and operators in the form of games, simulators, these sorts of things. And as it stands right now, is there any recourse for golf course designers like yourself? I mean, you are both a designer and a golf course owner. So Is there any recourse? Do you get any compensation for any of the use by outside operators?
Well, the rights exist, but it would be very long and tedious legal process in courts that are somewhat confused. So this is a cleanup of the law as it actually is. There is protection for those who are designers and the ownerships of their golf courses. But it's very confusing to the courts. So in many ways, this is kind of a cleanup of the language to make it very clear that golf courses are included in it. Not dissimilar to when Disney and others protected Mickey Mouse years ago, but they were clarifying those rights, and so are we.
So, for example, when I think of other property rights that exist, the closest analogy in a physical sense would be architecture. So a building design would certainly be protected. But I also think, and I think you agreed with the analogy of music when you talk about this type of fluid thing where a creative piece is made and it belongs to the person who made it. So you're saying rights exist for those things. Now we're just specifying that golf courses and everything on the golf property, in fact, is included in that.
Well, just so you quickly understand, and your audience does too, the AIA, American Institute of Architects, amended the act in 1990, I believe, to protect the creators, the creator of the designs of their buildings, but they also protected the ownership. In fact, the ownership was concerned that if something should happen, that they wanted to modify the building, that they would have to speak to the designer. That is specifically not necessary. They can alter the building as they wish. They can, as we say in the golf business, renovate their course, not just maintain it, not just add sand to bunkers, but move a bunker if they wish. They can even take the course or the house down without permission of the designer. But what they can't do is virtually create it. And that is where it has now become an issue of some importance. And you referenced the music world. That would be similar. As you know, a few years ago when Napster was out and other musical, I guess they were kind of websites or they were streaming sites, there was a lot of controversy. Did the Eagles really own the riffs in Hotel California and so on? And so that gets sorted out, and that's what will happen eventually, in my opinion, once the act is clarified.
Well, once again, you've opened the door to a room I was going to go in anyway, which is about when we talk about the music analogy. What about was sampling? Is a big deal because there's large swaths of modern music that would not exist but for the ability to digitally take pieces of famous works and use them as a main ingredient in a new song. So in that sense, will someone be able to take a whole or a copy out of a whole, just a whole, say, from a golf course and be able to use that as a quote unquote sample without any compensation for the owner? How complicated does this get, I guess, is what I'm trying to ask.
Well, I don't know. That's to be sorted out. I believe that the music analogy probably ends with a guitar riff here and there.
Right.
And a golf hole is another matter. It's a physical thing. For example, you can be inspired by a famous golf hole or even a design of the Lido and rebuild it in Wisconsin, and that's okay. But you can't lift it and do it virtually. Where I think this is going and why it's so important to consumers, all golfers, whether they play on a golf course or virtually on their computer, or otherwise, will have protection. It's really a protection of the consumer, the golfer themselves, that they know when they're playing a golf course or a hole such as Harbortown 18 or 17 or 18, it is actually the design that they would experience if they were there. I think where this is all going is fascinating. It's as we get into the metaverse, as you know, you can put on some goggles and play up and literally conduct business with each other or have an interview as we're now having. And who knows where this is going. We just want to get ahead of it on behalf of the entire sport of golf and all the ways it's portrayed and played. National Golf Day is primarily the kind of in the grounds, so to speak, on questions that golf course superintendents have. How many guest workers can they bring in to help them maintain their courses from wherever, Philippines, etc., as they do. It's very basic business. And this is a copyright protection in law, which is, we're not going to do that. What we hope to do, the golf course architects themselves, who include some famous names like Jack Nicklaus and Crenshaw and Coore, as well as the Jones family, may show up in Congress and just meet and greet with the congressman and answer their questions after the Masters.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we'll certainly keep an eye on that. And
Michael, since you live in D.C., we'd welcome your presence if that should happen.
Oh, as I always say to you and everyone else who's listening, when you're in D.C., do drop in, because I know a couple of places we can go both on the Hill and off the Hill. Not a problem. We got you covered here in Washington, D.C. Let's talk a little bit about your work, though, because you've built any number of golf courses. I know it's a high side of 200 somewhere. What do you have going on now? Any shovels in the ground anywhere in the world?
We always have a shovel in the ground. And there's a distinction between, say, maintenance of, replacing bunker sand or fixing a little minor drainage here and there. That's kind of renovation, and remodeling we do of our own works. As you know, at Wisconsin last year, the USGA Senior Open was played on at Century World, which we did originally in the 1980s and then remodeled it in 2014 and then touched it up again for that championship. So as the game evolves and as the needs of the sport or the course become different, just like Augusta National is an extreme example, especially for championship courses, we're called in to help out. You and I first met at Chambers Bay, and that course is getting rave reviews now by the players by virtue of the fact that it's public and it's full. It's hard to get a starting time. So we don't need to do anything at Chambers Bay except play it. But anyway, yes. And then we're doing new work, especially internationally, which we've always done. And I can name a few of those courses if you're interested.
I'm interested.
Okay, we're doing work in Denmark at Løbker and the Scandinavian course. Løbker is going to host a championship next August, a professional championship. So they wanted to update it for that event. Scandinavian has two 18-hole courses and an extraordinary clubhouse. It's an iconic building, very, very modernistic, similar to their opera house by the same architect. And the first golf course is wider and more spacious. And the second one, they wanted narrower, but now they want it wider. So fashions change. And as you know, many courses are widening cutting their rough more as fairway. So we're going to take out a few trees and open it up a bit. And elsewhere, with the Wisley course, which we did in the 1990s, we are redoing one of the nines, the last nine. I think it's I forget which nine it is by name, the Garden nine, I think, but I can't remember, which had actually been altered slightly by the Greens chairman, who is no longer a member. You know, the most dangerous words in golf, according to British architecture, way back when, is Greens committee chairman. So we're helping make sure that there's clarity of play and shot values there, nice. And updating it. We're doing other work in Chile, two courses there, the Prince of Wales course and the Sports Francis Golf Club in Chile. In Panama, we have a brand new project, as we do in Cotton Bay, Eleuthera, and the Ocean course in the Bahamas as well. And the National Golf Course in Australia, we're doing some minor upgrading. New projects possibly soon. They've been designed. Will hopefully break ground in St. Lucia, and Sierra del Mar in Colombia has broken ground. So those are that. So we're pretty busy, and the airlines are always happy to see me or Bruce or Trent. We get on those planes a lot.
I was going to say your tally of air miles must be formidable at this point. Formidable. Those are really some outstanding projects, and really all the best of luck. And I really want to go on the Robert Trent Jones Jr. trail at some point. We gotta make that one happen, make that a reality. You talked a little bit about restoration, renovation, and I know we've talked about that before, even on this airspace. We've talked about some of the differences of restoration and renovation, and we know that we see some of the larger big names in golf courses do that, yourself and others. are in charge of those projects. For the smaller operator, so the single operator or just a few golf courses, and they're trying to look at whether to restore or renovate. What are some of the signals that it's time to do a restoration / renovation? And are there resources available to make that an affordable prospect for the smaller operator?
Well, that's a very good question. And like anything that's being maintained over a long period of time, whether it's your personal home or an office or any structure, the golf courses are no different. They get tired, and a large part of golf course architecture you never see. It's subterranean.
Right.
The irrigation system wears out. Some of the drainage lines may get clogged. Soil mechanics changes by the use of fertilizers and other matters, and fashions change. For example, paspalum didn't even exist in the year 2000 as an African grass, which is very salt tolerant, and it became a big fashion in the stoloniferous areas, in the southern areas like Florida, Hawaii, and elsewhere. And we were saved by paspalum in Mallorca when Peter Portia had only salty water available from a sewage plant, and we didn't know what grass to plant. Suddenly we went to the golf course superintendent's show in Miami, and there was paspalum, and lo and behold, we got saved by the creators of that hybridation of that grass from turf grass. So the game changes, the grasses change, the clubs change, the attack changes, the way of thinking changes, but the game is still the same as it was 500 years ago. Hit it, go find it, hit it again, and get it in the hole before your opponent, and he buys the drinks.
And I like the way you're talking. So for our smaller operators who are out there, because we have lots of people who own one golf course and they look at it and they've had it in the family, let's say for years and years and years. Are there some warning signs? Like for me, like you mentioned the house metaphor, if I see a leak, I know it's time to fix something. Are there any signs that you need to go check your infrastructure or maybe consider updating your design principles, things like that, based on maybe who's coming to play your courses? More women are coming to play. So maybe you need to take a look at where your tee boxes are and where your bunker complexes are, those sorts of things. All
of that is true. And we've been doing that for some time. And if you ask women what the biggest change they want, they would like basically the clubhouse to have more ladies' rooms as they can get in and out quickly and keep playing. And that's their first concern. But basically, you're correct. The forward tees are now what I play from at my age, and we share them with the women often, and we have a great game because I don't hit it as far as I was once, as you mentioned earlier. And new tees are important, and for that matter, back tees are important for the young limber backs as well if we have the space on a course. But moving bunkers around, as we are doing in Dorado Beach, to accommodate the game as it's being played now, which was designed by my dad. We're going to do some work at Mauna Kea Golf Course to restore the golf course to his original design. So restoration is very different from renovation or remodeling. Restoration is being authentic to the original designer's concern. We hear a lot of people talking about being authentic to dead architects such as Tillinghast or Mackenzie, or even my dad. And that requires careful study of their plans and their intent. And it's a worthy thing to do on certain sites such as Mauna Kea and other courses that others are doing. But renovation or remodeling is updating a golf course to the current use, and that's also important. But the small mom and pop courses, we're doing work on that, and there'll be an announcement hopefully soon about how people who have those courses can avail themselves of our services.
That is outstanding news. I mean, we sort of buried the lead there. That's outstanding to have the opportunity to have a resource like yourself to be able to work for smaller operators and get your advice and operational skills involved in a project. That's great. So you're going to have something to say about that and a way for people to get in touch with you on that soon. That's still to come, right?
Yeah, basically my son Trent, the third Robert Trent Jones of generation, will handle that. You should interview him at that time.
The great Trent Jones, of course. We know him well. Well, that's fantastic. So now you just booked yourself for another show. You're going to have to do that one. You just put your foot in it there. I'm sorry, my friend. You can't get rid of me. You just can't get rid of me.
Happy to do it.
Well, as we close, we want to let you get going. I know we have some tournament coming up in the South that's pretty popular somewhere in Georgia. Just your thoughts on Augusta National, the tournament itself, the course's place in history. What should people, from your perspective, think about when they look at that golf course and what it means to the game?
Well, as you know, Michael, and we've been there and walked the back nine together.
Yeah.
The course has always been conceived by Bobby Jones and others, including Clifford Roberts, as a championship test for the best players. It's an invitational tournament. They can invite whomever they wish. You don't have to there are qualification ways. They automatically invite some people, but basically the course itself has been trying to get ahead of the changes in the game. When Nicklaus was hitting the ball long, when he was winning at Augusta in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, they put in further back tees. The bunkers are big and white and have clarity, and the contours of the greens are quite severe because Bobby Jones loved St. Andrews, and he wanted to replicate those contours. So it's a big golf course, and it's getting bigger. They've extended the tee on 13 back and the tee on 11 farther back to last year. I was there last year. As you know, my dad helped Bobby Jones add water. There was a raised creek, but he added the ponds on 11 and 6, and particularly 16, which is an iconic hole. And last year we had a tree fall down right on the 17th tee, right near the Redbud hole, number 13, and it was on Good Friday. So, as fate would have it, nobody was hurt, and so it was a miracle on Good Friday.
Yeah, it really was the Good Friday miracle. It's so true. Yeah, that's one of my favorite memories in life, is getting a chance to walk that back nine with you, and hearing you talk about that. And it took about 5 times longer than it normally would have taken because we couldn't get 5 feet without somebody coming out to shake your hand, take a picture, and say, "Hey, I play on one of your courses. That's my local club." That was like one of the great indicators of the influence that you have had and continue to have on the game. And for that, I would just like to say a heartfelt thank you.
Well, it all started with my dad way back in the 30s when he was working in WTPA works in upstate New York, and at a time when we were, we were in destitution in the country, and the game just it survives. It survives depressions, wars, and even me and you playing together.
Absolutely. Well, my friend, thank you so much for taking the time today. I hope to see you in Washington again soon, whether it's for litigation or libation.
No litigation. I want to stay out of the courts. That's one thing that BIRDIE Act does. It has rules and similar to the music business or SAG, or to clear it up so that they don't burden the courts. And so that if this clarification, this cleanup, and goes through Congress as we expect it will, we won't be in court. We'll be playing golf with each other on the course, real or virtual.
And a 19th hole after, because we don't have to pay royalties on martinis. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
That's open source, man. We can do that all we want to. Bobby, what a thrill. Thank you so much for taking the time, and can't wait to see you again soon. Okay.
I look forward to Michael, and have a good Easter.
Thank you so much. Same to you. The great Robert Trent Jones Jr. Again, so much information there about that BIRDIE Act. It's just amazing that hadn't come up before and hasn't been legislated, and specifically for the golf industry before, because it involves so much intellectual property that is impacted by so many people so many times. It's almost funny that it hasn't gone before, but we hope that that's something that, again, in a divided Congress, something everyone can agree on. And again, Bobby mentioned briefly Dorado Beach down in Puerto Rico. As my friend Ferris Bueller says, if you have the means, I highly recommend it. That is one fabulous golf course, as are many that he has done. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with a house chat. That's going to be fun, too. So go get yourself a cold beverage and a crunchy snack, and we'll be right here when you get back. Michael Williams, Golf Business Live. See you in a minute. Welcome back to Golf Business Live. I'm your host, Michael Williams. And as I said before, I'm still glowing from the PGA show. It was so great to see the show at its previous levels of energy, attendance. Great to make new friends, like my friends here at the Grizzly outside in Ohio. And also to see the dozens of old friends from the industry, and I think one of my very favorite people in amongst a group of very favorite people in the industry, one of my very favorites is our next guest on House Chat. He's a guy who is a forward thinker. He has a big brain, big ideas, and a big heart also. He is the CEO and co-founder of Tagmarshal. Please welcome back to House Chat, Bodo Sieber. Bodo, how are you, my friend?
I am very well, and all the better for seeing you, Michael. And I couldn't agree more with your sentiments on the PGA show. It was amazing. So much energy, so much momentum, and we have taken all of that into this year. And I think on around about the 29th of February, which is a leap year, right? I looked back and said it's been a month since the PGA show, and it felt like 3 months had passed. So many things happened. So it's been an exciting year, and starting with a fantastic PGA show. And it was great to see you there, of course.
Bodo, a couple of things I just got to say. First, your background there I guess that's in South Africa, where you are, is that background, your actual background is why people get virtual backgrounds. It's just too beautiful, man.
Yeah, it's great. A full HD quality, isn't it?
It is. It's color. I'm as green as this shirt with envy, honestly. I want to have an office view like that at some point. The other thing, most people I think have not met you who are in this golf course owners community, and just suffice it to say that Bodo would be a starting player on my football, basketball, and rugby teams, and that is a testament to his size and fitness. He is maybe the athlete of the year in the NGCOA as well.
I was going to say it's because I always put the team first, and I'm a team player. That's why you want me, right?
Oh yeah, that too. Okay, all that. Okay, but size, speed, endurance. There's that thing.
I know that there's one guy who I don't want to arm wrestle in the industry, and that's actually you. You're a big guy. It takes one to know one.
There's a new revenue stream. We got to talk to Jay about that. Okay, the NGCOA Olympics. We can get that one together. That would be fun. Hey, look, man, I want to jump right into it with Tagmarshal. Look, I know that I have seen it literally since it began. I remember coming by your stand the very first year you were there and talking about the idea, and my thoughts then were, God, this is a great idea. I hope people get it, because the golf industry isn't the sort of the best known for being rapid adopters of good ideas, but you have broken through in a big way. I guess the first question I wanted to ask you, is we have a bunch of them here, is what was the problem that existed that Tagmarshal solved? Because that's what really breaks through in the golf industry. If they have a problem and want to solve it, then you got a chance. What was the problem that existed that you helped solve? Problems that you helped solve?
Yeah, sure. Like in any industry, right? If you're solving a problem, then you have a market. So the problem that we saw that needed solving in golf is it takes a long time to play, and it is not an easy environment to manage the traffic out on a golf course, right? So, in simple terms, how are you going to manage pace of play unless you have a lot of manpower and eyes everywhere? It's near impossible. So we realized this is where technology can help. And the pace and flow of play obviously being a major experience factor. But ultimately, what it comes down to is this is the economic engine of the golf operation, right? How many players can we get through in the best possible quality experience? So we realized there's definitely a way here that technology can help optimize both the experience for the players, but also the workflow and the processes for the operators, just by providing real-time line of sight. You can think of it as a Waze or Google Maps of what happens on the golf course. And then there's lots of underlying data that gets collected that helps with better decision making. And that ultimately is the problem that we saw. And this was now a casual 9 years ago. So
wow.
We've been around the block a little bit.
Wow, that's crazy. 9 years ago. So in that time, obviously, you came up with a standard product, say version 1.0 that you had back then. How has the product evolved over time? Are you solving the same problem better, or have you found a way to solve that initial problem and others as well?
Both. and funny you mentioned Tagmarshal version 1.0, which is the version that we rolled out onto Erin Hills back in 2015. So Erin Hills obviously hosted the US Open, as you all remember, in 2017, that shot Brooks Koepka to fame. So they have been our partner number one, and we're now on 500 partners. And we are on version 4.0. So that is our internal upgrade, Tag 4.0. And this is also what we launched this year at the PGA show.
And what are some of the features that jump out right away for users of Tagmarshal, new features in 4.0?
Yeah, great question. So one of the main improvements that we've brought out now this season is a fully customizable interface of our back-end system. So we basically provided what is a control room for the operator, right? And they can have that on their PC, they can have it on their phones, they can have it on a tablet out on the golf course. And that control room that shows a live map like you would see on a Waze or Google Maps, like I said, but also additional data points that help you make real-time decisions and control what happens out on the golf course. That is now fully customizable, because we are just applicable across such a broad range of golf courses, all the way from a $30 Muni to a Pinehurst, right? And all the way from the good private club down the road to a Valhalla or a Hazeltine. We even landed at the old course at St. Andrews this season, which we're very excited about, because for many reasons that is almost like a milestone breakthrough, because it's such a traditional operation. So for them to turn to technology and saying we need this to go into the future is obviously super exciting. The customizable interfaces go back to different users, and different golf courses have got different needs out of the system. And we wanted to make sure that they can now say, okay, this is what we want to see, this is what we don't want to see, that's most important to us. And they can stack it and rack it the way that they want to, so that they can get the most intuitive benefit out of it.
And, this is, number one, the sort of courses that you name is so interesting that, right off the bat, you get a course at the level of an Erin Hills, and that was new technology in golf course design, if you will, at that time. And then to be able to also loop in the place where it all started. It's a testament to the way the technology can be applied to almost any golf situation. I know that growing up in the Muni golf course type of system, where we had, and you're going to laugh at this, in our first golf course, we had 6-minute intervals. And yeah, no lie, there were a lot of riders on that ride at any one given time. And a lot of munis are pushed into that situation because, as you say, there's this pressure to get more revenue in, to get as many players in as possible. Have you found that with the munis and smaller golf course owners and operators, this technology has proved essential in allowing them to have a more enjoyable playing experience by better managing that time?
Yeah, 100%, right? And for us, it's great to see that a well-resourced high-end golf course is effectively solving the same problems, right? So the Muni down the road that has a fraction of the resourcing, a fraction of the staff, can now turn to technology and solve the problem in a similar manner than a top-end class-leading golf course. So what we're seeing is that, and I understand the rationale of how can we get as many golfers out as possible. The problem is at a 6-minute interval, and you still must wake up at night with post-traumatic stress because that is an impossible challenge to manage, right? But you want to get the balance right between what is a reasonable interval that we can utilize to maximize our capacity, right? So we can drive our business. At the same time, we have a responsibility towards the experience for the players. And it's always comes out as a top 3 factor. What's the pace and flow of play been like, right? And if we don't get it right, people actually then vote with their feet and they don't come back. And the only response we then have is, well, people aren't coming back. We got to lower our prices, right? And that is a spiral that we don't want to get into. So we'd rather ensure that we optimize the throughput on the golf course with as much science as we can and as much control, but also elevate the experience so that we earn the right to elevate our fees alongside that. And people love it and they want to come back to it, right? So that is where we're super excited to have golf courses like Willow Springs, who you'd never heard of, or Fieldstone up in Michigan, who you've never heard of, really getting... I think Fieldstone has now added 85% in greens revenue over 3 years. So they almost doubled their greens revenue just by optimizing what they do out on the golf course and tying in dynamic pricing as an overlay. And those are the stories that is why we're here, right? As much as we're excited to work with the very best, but most of the golf gets played at a Fieldstone, at a Willow Springs, at the $30, $40, $50 course down the road. And if we can help them solve that problem, then we're doing a service to the industry and a service to the game.
You know, I mean, I love that as a story, honestly, because Jay Karen and I had this joke about logo flexing, where you sort of wear those logos of those great golf courses that you've been to, and it's sort of like jewelry, for golfers, that's sort of flashing your stuff, and that's great, to have that. You should be very proud of being able to have those types of courses in your client base. But again, I think the best advertising, the best marketing for it, the best story is that it's not a luxury to be used by the best courses. It's an absolutely essential utility for every golf course that's trying to maximize revenue. And presumably that's every golf course that is in operation. Now, there's a lot of technology that's operating at golf courses now when you have your technology and you have point of sale and you have social media and that sort of things. Is Tagmarshal somehow integrated into the other systems that are in place at a given golf course?
Yes, it absolutely is, and I think to your point, in terms of solving the problem, it really is a case of you now as an operator can make a decision. Do I want to manage my course like I always used to? And think about if you're thinking back at the Waze or Google Maps analogy, how did we used to get around? We had a paper map. We used to listen to traffic radio, and if we were a woman, we would even ask the way, right? If we got lost, if we're a man,
those guys don't ask, right?
We drive in circles, right? And we can never ask. And now we've got an app that helps us get from A to B in an efficient way, and it even gives us live traffic update. And it's a completely different way of working and so intuitive. And it's the same with what you can do now out on your golf course, right? But going back to your question, yes, integrations are absolutely essential. And this is, I think, where the golf industry has got it right, in that there's a number of best-in-class systems, and what's best-in-class for you might not be best-in-class for Peter from another course, but they can make that decision. And the key is that those systems, point of sale, club management, member management, tournament management, they need to integrate, they need to talk, right? So that they can make your life easier. And this is 100% one of the challenges, but also biggest opportunities to really add more value to operators, to get those systems to talk and optimize workflows and efficiencies.
Yeah, because I mean, it is ultimately a people business. With all the information and data and technology, it's a people business. And, in my mind, having something like when you see a certain player, if you can track by player who's out on the golf course, you can see their pace of play around, and you're storing data about that particular player. And then, you can know that X player plays at a certain pace. Here's where he stalls, this sort of thing. Maybe, I don't know if that individual player data is available to be captured, but to be able to capture that and use it and backflow that through other systems would be kind of a great thing,
Yeah, it absolutely is. So we can call up the rounds that you played at Bandon Dunes and see how you did for pace, right? But from an operator standpoint, obviously they want to look to aggregate data so that they can serve their players in the best possible way. And I think that is the underlying mission that all technology should have, right? Technology should help the operators make things work better so that the operators and the people that work at the operation can do what humans do best, and that is build relationships and create experiences, right? So where in the past it was a case of, well, how many people do we need to make things work, right? And can we throw another few people out to make things work better? Now we can deploy technology to make things work, and the people that are available, they can do what they do best, which is to create the best possible experience and build relationships and build those human connections that really matter. And I think golf is amazing like that, right? That is why people play golf, right? That is the beauty of the game. It's the friendships, it's the connection and the connections, and also the connections to places and to memories, right? So if we can bring technology in place and maybe numbers or multiple technologies working together to elevate the experience and make sure that the people can get out of it what they came for, that is a win, right?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I love the phrase high tech versus high touch, and both of them are necessary for the optimum golf experience and for the optimum revenue opportunity for the operator. So it's that balance that's really, really so important. And when we talk about technology, there's nothing that's more on the front burner than artificial intelligence at this point. We both sat through some very fascinating talks about AI at NGCOA events. What are your thoughts about AI technology in the golf business overall? How it can be used and implemented for good? And have you already, or are you in the process of integrating that technology into Tagmarshal?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I do remember the fascinating keynotes both at Golf Business Conference, but also at Golf TechCon in Vegas, and it was great to be part of the discussions around it. But I could also see that a lot of people were shaking in their boots a little bit, right, and worried that is AI coming to take all our jobs and make us all redundant. And I do think the main takeaway for me was that, like, no, not at all. It's here to augment us, right, and in line with what I just said. Help us be better, right? So that we can do what we do well, and help us elevate the work that we need to do. So from our point of view, we have long worked with machine learning, which is the base level of AI, if you will, right? Where you're feeding algorithms, you're feeding data, and you're teaching machines or algorithms to make decisions. What obviously now is possible with these generative AI tools is quite a few levels up, but they are generally reliant on word or image feed, right? So so this is where there's opportunities for us, obviously, to use the data that we've accumulated over the years around this is what hole-by-hole runtimes look like at certain course types and certain climate conditions, right? So we can feed partial data, aggregate data from other partners and strategic partners that we might have, and then come up with better answers and also more predictive models, right? So this is very exciting, and our team is geeking out on that on a regular basis. But I do think that the biggest thing that AI is going to do for the golf industry is it'll create more time for people, right? Because 100 years ago, everyone used to work 6 hours a week and 12 hours a day, right? Now we're working 40, 50 hours a week. Right. And in the future, and that next generation is going to work 4 days a week. Well, what do you think they're going to do with additional time they have? Hopefully, if we play our cards right, they're going to play an extra round of golf, right? Because they have more free time available. And this is, I think, where AI is really going to help. And I do also think what you said, and I love what you said about the high touch. AI is going to make a big difference to golf operations so that they can provide that high touch and without adding an additional 20 resources, right? Because it's a difficult labor environment that we have, right? It's hard to find people. It's hard to keep people. So if we give them the tools to be just a little bit better, then we can retain them and we can make them better. And I think this is where AI slowly but surely is going to become a co-pilot to us.
I mean, part of what I do is to help people relate to other people better, like those types of interactions that happen on the golf course, anywhere around, the golf property. We try to make people have the most positive approach and positive results from human interaction as they possibly can. That takes some training, and it's a thing that people can do. And like we said, one of the most difficult and maybe least desirable jobs was actually being the marshal. And kind of the guy who wanted to do that, in my experience, was the guy who might be the worst at it. Who felt like he was actual marshal, without a badge, and is approaching it in that way. And having this information, I think, gives people an opportunity to have Tagmarshal be really the only marshal on the course. Everybody else can be more in that hospitality role, which is really kind of defining the great golf experience. At least that's my take on it. What have you found out there?
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think that the marshal role in the traditional way is an impossible task, right? Because you have 200 variables out in a big terrain, and that's 200 players that you need to try and keep an eye on. You're always at the wrong place at the wrong time. And then if you're needing to have a corrective action with a player, they will just push back and say, well, no, where were you half an hour ago when we were held up? It's not us, it's the guys in front of us, right?
It's them, right?
Exactly. And the way the industry responded to the players getting defensive is that, well, they would find people who can take the defensiveness and trump it, right? People with natural authority and people that are happy to have a stern conversation. But the USGA has done extensive research on this, and it is actually the least appreciated interaction on the golf course out of an entire golfer journey. To have that corrective pace of play action, that's what it's called. And as an operator, you might think, well, tough luck. If you're slow, we got to tell you, right? But for players, it's the least, it's the most dissatisfying thing that happens on a golf course. And no matter how good their score was, and no matter how great the conditioning was, they will remember that interaction, right?
Yeah.
And very often the players at the same time, and that is a conundrum. The only other thing that's as bad is if other people are slow and holding me up, right? So this is the problem. Don't tell me I'm slow, but if other people are slow, I'll have a big opinion about it. On the flip side, what the USGA research says is that positive ranger interactions, a positive ranger communication is the most delightful thing. It's even better than fantastic conditioning. And I think to your point, if we can turn this role on its head, and maybe we need to also reframe it and say, this is not a marshal, this is not a ranger, this is not a military authoritarian role. No, this is a course ambassador. This is a player assistant. I'm here to help you, right? And the thing that makes that possible is if that person has data and say, hey, according to my system, you guys are half a hole out of position, or you're a couple of minutes out of position, let me help you get back in position. That's very easy for players to compute, and there's evidence, right? It's data.
Right.
It's not my opinion. And the players generally are very responsive. That not a problem. We'll catch up. Thanks for letting us know, right? And that person can then add so much more value to that round rather than somebody glaring at players. And the players already, as the marshal approaches, their heart rate elevates and they're ready to get defensive, right? So this is a very simple thing that any operator can consider, just repositioning that role. And obviously it helps to have that person empowered with line of sight and technology so they can make educated conversation with the players.
Oh, so you're seeing the exact same thing. You're seeing the same things I am out there. It's fascinating because if there's any part of my business that's going to buy me a boat, it's going to be the conflict resolution classes that I teach, and it largely comes from that thing. Those types of interactions and the type of people that are put into that job without sufficient background on what it really is meant to do. And I mean, it seemed like it was an actual program that we had with the Department of Defense that every retired colonel in the city had to come through our golf courses and be a marshal. And those guys, the retired colonels, they are a specific type, and they are not afraid of confrontation. Let me tell you that. They kind of seek it out, in a way. Hate to generalize, pun intended, but that is what we saw with a lot of our folks. But so going forward, getting into more courses, adding more features, is there what is the next move for you? Are you going into new and different arenas, using the technology that you have? You have some very special technologies for grabbing information. Are you looking to spread to different places on the golf course, off the golf course, new products, new features? What's coming for the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, it's always fascinating how many people at the operation are actually dialing into our program, right? Because the line of sight is obviously a major benefit to anyone who manages things out on the golf course. So that's your starter, your player assistants, that's your food and beverage, halfway house, your drinks cards. Everyone's dialed in, when you take a step back and you look at the underlying data in terms of how did we perform today? What was the worst group we had? Why did this group fall out of position? What was the impact they had on others? And very often we see that in the data is that over a season, 5 or 6% of playing groups are having a major impact on 20 or 30%, 40% of others, right? So how can we catch that and reduce it so that our round times can come down safely? We can then look at adding more capacity. A lot of our partners are doing fast lane golf in the morning because they realize we can actually play our property in 3 hours 30 and we can get players around quickly. And that is a pricing consideration too, because the players that want that, they will pay a bit of a premium.
Right.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more broader application of the program, and another opportunity obviously comes in the superintendent space, right? Because if they are dialed into the live player flow, they understand there's a gap in the field, our team can go out and get things done, or the first group out is not as far along as we thought, or they're looking at the heat map of effective traffic. Where did all these golf carts go? Where didn't they go? Where can we save money on irrigation, fertilizer, labor hours, resourcing? Like you guys had an amazing event following the Golf TechCon with the Water Summit, right? Yeah. So looking at resource efficiency around that, how can we reduce our turf because there's parts of the fairway nobody ever goes to. Like once you have data, you can really dig into that. And those are some of the opportunities that the operators are asking us to elevate and build more around, and that's obviously our favorite thing. Like we keep our ear very close to the ground. We've got some amazing operators that we work with. Some are really just driving innovation and saying, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? This would really help us. And this is an ongoing debate between me and my peers. And then we go and analyze, and very often we then build it and add it. I can't give away all our trade secrets on your show as much as I'd love to. Come on. But it really is, it comes down to solving real problems and just listening. Like it's no help us building features because they're exciting to us, but nobody actually needs them, right? So we also tracking how do people use our program, what results are they generating, what levels of ROI is possible for them. Is it 2 times, 5 times? Very often it's 10 times ROI. How can we replicate that at other golf courses and educate others to do the same, right? So it's becoming a platform, and there's also a knowledge transfer within that platform, and that's then it's getting more and more rewarding, obviously, for me, and you can see how excited I am around this.
So we'll finish up, Bodo, and this is all fascinating stuff, man. I just love talking to you. You so fluent, with your conversation about the industry. It's really a pleasure talking to you. But as we finish, I'll give you an opportunity to brag a little bit. How many courses, how many countries are you having with Tagmarshal right now?
I think we're just past 500 partners now, and 14 countries. I can tell you that the best performing golf courses we have are very often in Canada. And there is an obvious reason for that, right? Because they have such a condensed season, they need to maximize their opportunity, and they're really dialing into technology to optimize. And we can see that trend trickling down, obviously, into the States as well. But again, like there's lots to learn from the best operators, and we're looking to share the knowledge, and we have webinars. We get them to tell their story, and others can learn and listen. It's only the beginning, right? So for us, what's exciting about what's ahead is further integrations, and also big thanks to you for the amazing events that you set up, because not only are they immensely valuable to your members and the course owners, they're also immensely valuable to us, right? Because we get to meet and interact with other industry players and with other technology vendors, and very often there's synergies and decisions about strategic partnerships get formed at the Golf Business Conference. And we've got a few that we've launched and we're working on, and that is all thanks to the platform that you are creating. And big thanks to you and the NGCOA team for doing that so well.
Well, amen to that, brother. That gets done by people other than me. I'm like you. I sort of show up and start running my mouth, and things seem to fall into place. But I couldn't agree with you more. They are such unique and special opportunities to listen, learn about the industry, and if you have a business, to grow your business through the best resource possible, which is the people who are owning and operating golf courses on an everyday basis. Bodo, I'm going to let you get out there, and I'm going to say literally go fly a kite, in the nicest possible ways. You got the nice wind back there. Just so great to have you on, as always. It's a pleasure talking to you. We haven't had a chance to go out and hit a ball yet, but at one of those 500 golf courses, we have to actually put a peg in the ground and go play at some point. Yeah. Yes.
So let's make a point of it. I know there's a few events that we're gonna cross paths this season, and if we can't get out and around, let's hit a few balls at Topgolf and have a beer.
Sounds like a plan. But thank you so much for spending the time, as always, and we'll see you again, virtual or real. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
You got it. That is the one and only Bodo Sieber. This is a guy really who has taken an idea and turned it into an industry. He's taken an idea and turned it into an industry. And these are special people who we can identify in a variety of different sectors, but we see them very clearly in the golf industry. Things like soft spikes, for instance. That's an idea that turned into an industry off the top of my head. He is really a great listener, a great thinker, but a great listener too. And that's what enables him to take the ideas that come from you, the golf course owners, and turn them into something that works even better for you on their day-to-day basis. So kudos to you for being such a great resource, and kudos to them, obviously, for making such a great product. It's just a joy talking to that guy. So it's fun. I guess that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Golf Business Live. It is a pleasure for me, as always, to bring this show to you. We'll be back next time with more great guests, more great information, and hopefully another logo. If you have a shirt that you want me to wear or a flag you want me to have on the wall, send it down to NGCOA headquarters, okay? I'll pick it up and put it on the wall, and we'll have it for the next show. In the meantime, go out and get yourself on a golf course, hit some balls, and when you do, hit them straight. For the NGCOA and Golf Business Live, I'm Michael Williams. We'll see